The Douglas-Hart Nature Center presents virtual field trips.
Hey everyone, Miss Jen here, Education Director for the Douglas-Hart Nature Center. Have you ever visited and wondered how unique Douglas-Hart is? I mean, we're a pocket of natural habitat, woodlands, wetlands, and prairie. Yet, we're surrounded by development. Houses, power lines, farm fields, cars. Have you ever wondered how we got this way? How we changed over time? Illinois used to look like this. But how did it become so developed? So take a trip with me back in time as we learn how Illinois became developed.
So let's rewind and go back in history. Whoa, nope, that's a little too far. Dinosaurs really way too far. 1492, no. Squanto, Pilgrims, that's like the 1620s. You know what, that's close enough. Let's start there. Indigenous people, known as Native Americans, lived in what we know today as North America. Around the 1600s, there were 12 unique Native American tribes living in what would become Illinois. They cared for the land, used the land, but made sure to nurture it. They were one with the land, and the land looked like this. So imagine, no houses, roads, no businesses, no power lines, no cars, no farm fields. It was all natural. Some of this natural land were wetlands, land covered or flooded by water, making up a distinct ecosystem. There were many streams, which are small bodies of flowing water. The prairie is a unique grassland ecosystem composed of grasses and flowers rather than trees. Finally, there's the woodlands, another unique ecosystem. It's land covered with trees, but supports an understory of shrubs and herbaceous plants, including grasses. It is full of diversity.
So I want you to cut out your surroundings and imagine you're standing at the Douglas-Hart Nature Center. Nothing but natural habitat around you. Now what changed? What happened? Let's find out.
2 expeditions paved the way to explore into Illinois. The first was in 1673, when 2 French explorers set voyage down the Mississippi to explore, Jacques Marquette and Louis Joliet. The second expedition came about in 1804, when Meriwether Lewis and William Clark began their journey near St. Louis. They headed out west of the Mississippi River in territory that was completely unfamiliar and unknown. Both of these expeditions paved the way for new folks to move into Illinois territory. At first, there was a few trading posts, forts, missionaries, and a few fights and sieges occurred. But little by little, Illinois became more populated. By 1820, the population density was only at 2. Today, it's at 105. Population density means it's an estimate of how many people per area. According to this map, only 2 people live for every square mile. The Douglas-Hart Nature Center is located in Mattoon, Illinois. Mattoon has about 10 square miles. So back in 1820, how many people would have lived in the Mattoon area? Have you figured it out yet? Take 2 people per square mile. Mattoon is approximately 10 square miles. 2 times 10 is 20. Can you imagine only 20 people living in our area? That's probably just a couple families. But things really started booming for Illinois. These new settlers, or pioneers, started moving into our area. These young farmers and laborers probably didn't have land of their own, so Illinois was an opportunity to own land for themselves. So they packed up the family, loaded up the wagon, and headed out west. These pioneers would travel for months at a time in all sorts of weather conditions, searching for just the right piece of land. When they did so, they would unpack, settle in, and one of the first things they would do would build a temporary shelter called a lean-to, or use their wagon as shelter. The next thing they would do was immediately prepare the ground, or a small field, to plant seeds for wheat or corn and a small vegetable garden. These early settlers were also proficient hunters, killing rabbits, deer, anything that's nearby, but also gathering nuts, berries, and other types of food in the nearby woodlands or prairie. Finally, the pioneers could start working on a house. Depending on where they settled, was the type of house they built. If they settled near a woodland, they probably built a log cabin. But if they settled on the prairie, they might have built a sod grass house. Let's take a look. Settling near a woodland meant chopping and clearing lots of trees to plant near where their log cabin would be built. But they would use some of the timber to build that cabin, their fence, maybe a shed. But then they kept clearing more and more land for more farm fields. Oftentimes there was great big burning parties to burn all the timber because they couldn't use it all. What they could use went towards their log cabin and maybe some fencing to go around their property. The settlers that chose to build on the prairie also cleared the grasslands to make room for their farm fields, and they used the grass to build sod houses, except they ran into some challenges. They didn't realize that prairie plant roots go down several feet. Pioneers did have a wooden plow, but they complained that the thick sod of the prairie would stick to their plow blade. So in 1873, a blacksmith from Illinois named John Deere turned a broken sawmill blade into a steel plow. With a steel plow, settlers could cut through the dense prairie quicker. This allowed them to plant more fields. They could also cut sections of sod out of the prairie, and they would stack it to make walls for their house. Let's check out the inside of one of these houses. Notice the dirt floor, and most everything inside was probably made by the settlers themselves. So what was life really like for these early settlers in Illinois? Well, they had to be very skilled in farming, hunting, trapping, and carpentry. Women too. They had to tend to the children, cook, garden, spin yarn, and tend to the animals. They made much of what they needed: clothes, bullets, candles, and furniture. Foods, medicine, and more. These settlers faced many other challenges: illness, food shortages, weather-related dangers like drought, swarms of insects that would eat their crops. These pioneers had challenges every day. Thanks to their journals and diaries, we knew exactly what they faced.
These pioneers thought they were making a better life for themselves. And to an extent they did. They had a house, land, children, and animals. But by clearing away the prairie and woodlands, it left devastating results on these ecosystems.
By these early settlers removing native habitat, it started a chain reaction that couldn't be stopped. The effects of habitat loss resulted in the loss of species and resources and is the greatest threat to biodiversity. If you look at this map from 1850, you can see there's still a lot of natural areas in Illinois, no urban areas or agriculture. If you look at the map today, you can see that it's mostly yellow for agriculture or farming. There's no grassland left today, and the forests dwindled drastically. When you lose habitats to this measure, the results are devastating. Let's look at some of the consequences. Once open lands in America became populated, the reaction started. Some plants and animals became extinct, meaning they are no longer found anywhere in the world. Species that went extinct during this time include the Carolina parakeet, the eastern elk, and several species of mussels, fish, and rat. Other species were extirpated. That's when a species no longer exists in a particular area, like the state of Illinois, but may exist elsewhere. Examples of extirpated animals of Illinois include the black bear, gray wolf, and mountain lion. Those that did not become extinct or extirpated may still become endangered. This is species with a very low population and could likely become extinct in the near future. It is important to acknowledge all of the plants that have become endangered as well, including the western prairie fringed orchid, prairie bush clover, and many, many more.
So our mission here at the Douglas-Hart Nature Center is to showcase these three habitats prior to settlement. We're restoring the natural habitat with the original flora and fauna that originally flourished here. Sadly though, not every animal or plant can make a comeback today.
Like the bison. These animals need about 5 acres per every 1 or 2 bison. But for a herd, you need about 100 acres. These are very social animals, so they have to be in a herd. Plus, bison naturally migrate, roam, or graze, so restricting them to just a few acres isn't healthy for an animal this size. On a brighter note, some animals have made a comeback in Illinois after being reintroduced, like the white-tailed deer. I know we have plenty of them today. And wild turkey also made a comeback. There's just one more negative impact to the new growth out west, the Dust Bowl. By turning grasslands into farm fields, it left the topsoil exposed to the elements. So during a dry season, all the dirt would get kicked up into the air and you would be hit by storms that look like this. That's not rainstorms. That's pure dust rolling across the country. The effects were devastating.
This period of history is fascinating. These pioneers faced many challenges. They were trying to make a better life for themselves, but we know the domino effect of their actions. So my question to you is, if you could contact the pioneers, go back in time, write them a letter, would you let them know the consequences of their actions about taking out the prairie, woodland, creating endangered species and habitats? What would you do?
We would love to hear what you think about the pioneers. Please write us your response and mail it to Douglas-Hart Nature Center, 2204 DeWitt Avenue East, Mattoon, Illinois, 61938. Or you can just email it to programs@dhnature.org.